The impact of PBIS interventions on junior high students' behavioral outcomes. Hi, I'm Elizabeth Wright. I'm a graduate student at Morningside College and a teacher at Midland Community Schools. I think all of us as teachers can agree with the problem statement that the challenge to keep a classroom full of students engaged in demonstrating proper behavior is a daily struggle. Tran actually agrees with us, saying that it's one of the most stressful parts of our professional lives as teachers, especially how to find those effective management tools that will help change students' behaviors in the classroom. Why me? When research was conducted, our school was increasing our participation in the Tier 2 systems. And as the PBIS teacher leader for our junior high and high school buildings, I would be allowed the opportunity and ability to provide data with the school staff on the impact of PBIS interventions. PBIS, Positive Behavior Interventions and Supports, is a Tier 3, Tier 2, and Tier 1 system. We have the Tier 1 interventions are for all students, where the school will come together and determine 3 to 5 behavioral expectations that they want to focus on. Our school chose 3. And Cressy et al. Actually says when student behaviors are directly taught, the problem behavior will decrease. If students do not respond to the Tier 1 system, they are referred to the Tier 2 system. It provides intensive and targeted interventions when they don't respond. And that targets about 5 to 15% of your population of students. When Tier 2 interventions are not successful, then they get referred to the Tier 3 interventions, which are 5 to 10% of your student population, and it provides very individualized interventions. And we would even do an FBA, which is a functional behavior assessment, which really lets us zone in on what is the function of the behavior, why is the behavior happening. Check in, check out is one of the interventions that we used for the research study. And some of the studies and results for check in, check out from previous studies all showed that there was either decreases in disruptive behavior or increases in positive behavior, which no matter how you look at it is an awesome thing. Important details on the check in, check out. Also, it's important to understand that the check in, check out establishes a daily routine for our students that are on that intervention. And that explicit instruction and quality feedback is a necessity when our students are on the check in, check out intervention. Behavior cards are the other intervention that was utilized in this study. Unfortunately, there's not a lot of studies available on behavior cards. The one study I did find utilized a form of the behavior card, and it was able to show a 61% improvement rate in the students that utilized that intervention. Student engagement is also something that is really hard for researchers to determine what it is. The definition of student engagement is so different depending on the researchers. Researchers came together, though, and figured out that there were not a lot of inventory type surveys out there to measure classroom or student engagement. There was one study over a longer period of time where the researchers were able to capture the changes in student engagement. Behavior engagement also can be the idea of not only classroom engagement, but engagement in other activities such as extracurriculars, academic specialties, or even sports. And the student self-report survey that was utilized as the final piece of this research is a simple survey with a Likert scale. The impact of misbehavior in the classroom and a student not being engaged is the classroom climate suffers. And disruptive behavior is also detrimental to the teachers, to school cultures, to student learning, and just to students in general. And when disruptive behavior is not reduced, achievement gains can suffer, and that is definitely something we do not want to be happening in the classroom setting. And administration and teachers must address behavior in a positive manner to decrease those referrals, according to Ford, versus the idea of a punishment manner that has been done in the past. The goals and objectives of this study were to determine whether the use of the PBIS Tier 2 interventions, check-in, check-out, and behavior cards would decrease the frequency of office referrals and increase student engagement through class participation. The working hypothesis was that the students who utilized the check-in, check-out, and behavior card interventions would have a decrease in office referrals during treatment and an increase in the level of student engagement during treatment. The independent variable was the check-in, check-out, and the behavior card interventions, and the dependent variable was the office referral data and the student engagement survey data. This was a quantitative research study to determine the impact of the PBIS interventions. Some of the possible impacts of this study would be that results could show that it is making an impact and that it would help teachers encourage positive behavior in their classroom. It would also prevent misbehavior in the classroom by encouraging that positive behavior. It would also provide evidence of the successful evidence of interventions that teachers can refer to and utilize. And my work as the PBIS teacher leader will definitely be impacted by these results as well, especially as we look forward to the future of the next school year and the interventions that we will be putting into place. There were 3 students who took part in the study, 2 boys and 1 girl. They were all junior high aged 6th through 8th grade. Parent permission was obtained for all of the participants, and it was granted for all of the participants. The materials are the check-in, check-out, and the behavior card intervention sheets, and the student engagement survey. I have provided samples of the check-in, check-out, the behavior card, and the student engagement survey. As you can see, the check-in, check-out, and the behavior card, they have the same idea, but they are very different at the same time. The check-in, check-out is far more detailed than the behavior card. The procedure for the study was through all weeks of the study, weeks 1 through 12, every single Friday, the students came into my classroom and completed the engagement survey during RTI time. Weeks 1 through 3, there was no interventions. It was simply collecting data. Weeks 4 through 6 was a check-in, check-out intervention, where basically the students would report to my classroom and review the goals for the day. We would focus on respect, responsibility, and personal best, their goal of receiving 80% of the possible points of the day, and that they were to get no major or minor office referrals for the day. At the end of the day, students were then dismissed from their class 5 to 10 minutes early. It depended on which bus they rode home on when they were dismissed. And basically, we would review their check-in, check-out sheets, and we would go over any issues that they may have had on the day, and we would talk about how could you fix this the next day. And then weeks 7 through 9, there was no interventions in place again. It was simply collecting office referral data. And then weeks 10 through 12, we did the behavior card intervention, where the students basically just came into my classroom, they picked up the behavior card that was in a specific area, and they went about their day filling out their card, and then they would drop it off at the end of the day. Now, if I did see that a student had a rough class or a rough day, we would have a short conversation the following day, or even right there in the afternoon if they were upset about the day they had. Data analysis was done by just collecting the daily scores, and they were monitored and recorded in a spreadsheet. Data was analyzed at the conclusion of all phases of the study, and then the check-in, check-out, behavior card, and engagement surveys were collected and stored during the study as well. The results did show a statistically significant decrease in the number of office referrals during the check-in, check-out, and behavior card interventions. The mean for the baseline of the check-in, check-out intervention was 2.67, and the mean post-treatment for check-in, check-out intervention was 0.33. And then for the behavior card intervention, the mean for the baseline was 4.33, and the mean post-treatment was 0.68. Unfortunately, the results did not show a change in student engagement during the interventions. The check-in, check-out intervention mean baseline was 3.00, and the mean post-treatment was 3.33. And then for the behavior card intervention, the mean for the baseline was 2.94, and the mean post-treatment was 3.38. The implications of this study and the results showed that the check-in, check-out, and behavior card intervention have a positive influence on student behavior in the classroom setting. And parents see a decrease in their students receiving office referrals, which what parent would not be pleased about not receiving a phone call from the principal or administrator or counselor about behavior in the classroom? And then also the teachers experience a decrease in disruptive behavior from the participants during treatment. Some of the limitations of this study is the study had a small sample size. The study was also only conducted by the researcher as a coordinator for the interventions. It didn't incorporate the expertise of other staff. Students were the only participants also completing the engagement survey. Teachers did not complete a Likert scale survey that would track the engagement from their viewpoint. And the study did not have all teachers giving behavioral feedback to students consistently. So it was unknown if the lack of feedback had a direct impact on student behavior and or student engagement. And the measures that were used were developed by our district PBIS team. So in turn, they do not have reliability or validity. And because of this, the results should be interpreted with caution. Some of the recommendations for future research would be to increase the sample size, including larger and varying the age range. Increase the amount of researchers who are taking part, get more staff members involved. Improve and expand the survey for student engagement. And also the big thing would be to allow the classroom teachers to rate the student engagement. Providing the detailed training for all staff that are going to be involved in the interventions, including check-in, check-out, and behavior cards, need to be trained, and it needs to be very detailed so they understand what their expectations and what their role is. And then finally, explore the possibility of finding measures that have reliability and validity. These are the references that were used in this PowerPoint. Thank you so much for your time.